Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Gamblers List 2019, where I rank all games I streamed this year based on my personal enjoyment. Not all of these games were released this year. Some games I streamed are missing, mostly because I only played them for a day, or even less. But overall it sums up pretty nicely what was seen on my channel in 2019, which of those games I liked, disliked, or straight up loved. If a big title, like for example Death Stranding, is missing, then because I wasn't really interested enough to pick it up in the first place. The ones I didn't particularly like. 33. Children of Morta. Beautiful pixel art, interesting premise, but the core game loop is lacking. You don't really notice that as long as you're still unlocking family members, but once you have all of them it quickly starts to feel like, that's it then, I guess. 32. Wildermyth. Cool idea, but a lot of not that interesting storytelling and an art style that is hard to get used to put it nicely. 31. Vaporum. A game that wants to be Legends of Grimrock and isn't. I feel like a lot of games on the bottom of the list this year weren't terrible. There isn't a single one I actively hated, just a good amount of games that I didn't care enough about to rate them higher. 30. Jump King. I enjoyed getting over it with Bennett Foddy. And I already didn't enjoy that one that much, but at least getting over it gave me the impression that it was fun for chat, while Jump King didn't, so we moved on quickly. 29. Baba Is You. I heard mostly good things about this game, but at the end of the day I couldn't really get into it. It's smart, it's not necessarily doing anything wrong, but yeah, meh. What else is on the list? 28. Moons of Madness. It is not Soma, but it's serviceable. I completed it in 2 days, and then didn't really look back. There's just very little I haven't seen before, from the alien growth that spreads through the base, to the weird supernatural visions. I like the Wormfinger thing that would retreat every time you looked at it. 27. Moe Astray. Going with the trend of the last few entries, it's alright. Many games were this year, but none of them really managed to keep my attention that long. Keeping me engaged as a platformer is probably twice as hard. 26. Dicey Dungeons is a game that I played this year. It has all that creative changing of the core game loop going on, as well as the quirky game show narrative, but after a few hours you feel like you've got a decent idea of how the rest of the game will go, just with the new mechanic added regularly. Which should be awesome in theory, honestly. Maybe it's just a very basic look that stopped me from getting more invested. Or maybe it's that the game has very little to offer to start with once you strip away that constant game mechanic changing. 25. Trials of Fire. One of the brownest games I have seen in a while. Fun enough for a day or two, but I feel like it tries to go for the entire build your own deck approach and then doesn't give you enough interesting alternatives to build into. The game is hard enough to have me restart regularly, but it felt like I'd be building the same types of decks over and over again, even when I tried to actively not do that. 24. Path of Exile. After giving Grim Dawn a shot at some point in the past, there came an update that added tower defense elements to Path of Exile, so I decided it was time to give this one a go too. They play similarly, and if you are into the genre, you probably can grow to like both in their own ways. Personally, I'd say it was okay, but still not my genre. 23. Minute. It's really cute and smart, and I feel a little bad for rating it that low. But I knew what I was gonna get going in, and therefore a big part of the innovation the game brings was already spoiled to me before I got started. I didn't mind playing it, but I also don't feel like I need to urge people to try it for themselves. It's cute. Watch a Let's Play if you're interested. The ones I wouldn't mind playing again because they were pretty cool. Pretty long name. 22. Deck of Ashes. When I played the game, there was only one playable character available. By now there's at least one more, and the game was still a little rough around the edges. But even then the game was pretty fun for one playthrough, and I didn't manage to win my first couple of runs, so nice difficulty, looks cool, and it does a few things I'd like to see more of in other games as well. For example, how each area has multiple bosses that can spawn, similar to Slay the Spire or Enter the Gungeon. That's how I like my replayability, instead of scripted stories and you get to play with only 4 out of 6 characters each time. Now I feel like I should have rated this higher. I should play this again sometime. 21. Ancestors, A Human Odyssey. Odyssey? Whatever. Just look at the screen. should tell you a lot about the main appeal of the game right away. It has monkeys! Oh my god, Matt loves monkeys. No, I don't. But it is pretty unique, isn't it? It has its issues, like a lack of direction for the player, or the fact that I got stuck for days not realizing why I hadn't been able to evolve so far, simply because the button to evolve is pretty well hidden, and it only shows up on a specific screen if you're also in a settlement. When I checked that screen, I wasn't in a settlement, and I just never looked there again. I took it for some statistics summary screen. Whoops. 20. Cliff Empire. I really want to like this one, especially and actually only with the defense mode on, where you get raided by pirates like every 15 minutes. I actually played the game even off stream for over 50 hours, but I would always run into the same problem. I would run out of money. I tried going for banking and tourism and research and just not losing anything from attacks, which is a bullshit approach because it isn't reliable. But I tried it anyway. I tried to fulfill all my colonists' needs, or only very few of them, while exporting everything. But at the end of the day, I would always run out of money and then sit there unable to do anything anymore. I tried going for many efficiency upgrades, I tried saving the money from those upgrades instead, I tried keeping law up so nothing would be stolen, and I tried to ignore it. Nothing seems to work. Then I started playing other games more and more over time. 19. Phoenix Point. Yeah, I would have loved to rate it higher, but I frankly cannot. I had very high hopes for this, and I still do. I'll revisit it again with the first DLC, but on release, barely playable. Let's hope they can fix it, but until they do, I cannot recommend. So this rating is based on the hope of what still may be, but not on what is right now. 18. Eratus, Lord of the Dead. Closest game to Darkest Dungeon I've seen since Darkest Dungeon. Different enough so it's not just a ripoff, with a curious crafting mechanic and a sort of different progression angle. And even when I played it 6 months ago, it was already running smoothly and working pretty well. Since then, from what I've seen, they've only added more, and I'm certain we're going to revisit it at some point. 17. Nova Drift. Not really my kind of game usually, and at first glance it might look very basic, but there is a lot of variety here. You could build your little spaceship to shoot a grenade that then explodes into more grenades, while also having a shield that reflects enemy shots. Or you go quintuple railgun and slow-mo shield that makes it easier to dodge. Or basically carrier with lots of turrets and drones and fighters that do most of the work for you. Really nice. If even I like it, then there's probably few people out there that won't, given that I'm not usually into this sort of game. 16. Superliminal. I named this section Games I Wouldn't Mind Playing Again. And this one is the only game here that doesn't really fit that description. It's not meant to be replayed, and one playthrough is comparably short. But it is cool, and it is doing what it is trying to do. Think Anti-Chamber, maybe, or Portal, Stanley Parable. A little bit of all of those, sort of. 15. Dota Underlords. When it comes to auto battlers, the majority will likely stick to either TFT or Dota Underlords. Or I think there were a few others, but those two I consider the big ones. I gave TFT a quick try too, but I feel like if I had tried TFT first, I would have maybe preferred it. And this way I simply prefer this one. You learn how it works and then you don't really want to relearn the other one anymore, I think. I like this one. I like the Underlords, the style, the way the team creates and communicates updates constantly, and the only thing I really want to complain about is why that wasn't done the same way to Artifact. Come on, Valve. Re-release Artifact, please, so I can put it on the top of this list. 14. Griftlands. Clay is love. And this game is already shaping up to be another one of my favorites, once it's done. It's different, it's cool, it has a very capable team behind it, and even though I knew I would hit a wall very early, saying everything past this point is not in the game yet, I still had a great time with it. Why can't more game makers be like Clay? I'd spend more money that way. 13. Overland. This one nobody has ever heard about. It's smaller in scope than other turn-based, run-based strategy games, with permadeath, and it took me maybe 5 days to complete it. What was that, like 10 attempts? But I have very little I want to complain about. The story seems a little weird, maybe. Maybe there could have been more depth to it, like skill trees or something? I'm not sure. I completed it, and I felt like I was done with it, and I think the game could have kept me coming back if I would have gone a little deeper. But as it is, I did like it. It just feels like it was over too quick. 12. Retropolis. This game is stupid and fun and a little stressful and rough around the edges, but also really cute. I feel a little torn on the real-time character of the game, where the card drawing speed is sometimes a bigger bottleneck than the actual card cost, or how the final bosses seem to only be defeatable with rather specific strategies, but overall I have little doubt that anybody who enjoys strategy games will have a good time with this one, at least for a while. 11. Green Hill. I'm rating this so highly for its core mechanics, not necessarily for the story mode, which is fine too, but it lets me loop back to a point that I've been making for years now. The best survival games I've played all didn't really benefit of the actual story mode. Subnautica, The Long Dark, Green Hill, The Forest, all of those were great and a lot of fun, and then the promised story mode would drop and it would be serviceable, but missing the point of what made the game so incredible in the first place. Exploration, orientation, survival based on food, drink, sleep, medicine, it all suddenly, and in my opinion unnecessarily, has to step aside somewhat, because you cannot go there until you find story element X or talk to NPC Y, etc. I minded this the least in Subnautica and the most in Green Hill, I think. As far as I'm concerned, if a game like this promises a story mode coming, that's kind of a downside. Just put that energy towards more creatures, or areas, or game mechanics. Keep it sandboxy, you know? 10. Satisfactory. I didn't end up streaming it much, but this list is based on personal enjoyment and not chat activity, and yeah, I liked Satisfactory a lot. Feels a little like Factorio meets Subnautica, kind of mixing the exploration of an alien planet with the need of actually mining it, you know? Big fan. Can't wait until it's finished. 9. Shortest Trip to Earth. I feel like I'm rating this one too highly. But then again, why? Because the almost instant switching of modules feels kind of cheesy, maybe. Or because cats are stupid. Or because many ships feel like they are just variations of the same ship. Or because I feel torn on how some starter ships are most likely way better than others. But even so, the way aiming works in the game and how ship size as well as evasion naturally factors into that, the replayability, the epicness of the final fight. I had an amazing final fight, but I have the suspicion it was designed that way. And that takes a lot of skill in my opinion. I didn't beat the game with every ship, and unless there's more content added I don't think I ever will, but I also never did that with FTL. And speaking of, if I had to name a game worthy of comparison to FTL, it would be this one, and that alone is very high praise. The real winners this year. Number 8. Urtuk. Now I named this final top 8 section like it was reserved for only the greatest masterpieces and awesomest of the fantasticular or something. But I kinda want to squeeze one game in there that I only started to play on December 28th or so, by the name of Urtuk, whatever. The game isn't even officially released as an early access game on Steam yet, but you can already pick it up on the game's website, and at the time of me writing this I've sunk about 30 hours into it. Is it worthy of spot 8? Possibly. I think so. Need to play more. But I've been loving my time with it so far, so I'm cautiously confident. Especially given that the game plays like a title that was already released and not some pre-early access open alpha nonsense. It has lots of content, it runs like a charm, and it might have a few interface issues like unfortunate font color or something, but overall, I already recommend it. Think Darkest Dungeon meets Battle Brothers. It might not be better than either one of them, but then again, it very well might. Give it a go. Number 7. Mordheim, City of the Damned. This one doesn't really need an introduction, but I sort of rediscovered it this year because of the lack of new releases that interested me. And after booting it up, it quickly caught me again. Now, originally when I played this 2 years ago, I had a hard time dealing with a terrible AI that got impressive stuck in houses. Enemies pointlessly skipped their turns because they had forgotten how to jump down from a climbing spot, etc. However, there's a mod for that now. The so-called Paranoia mod fixes impressive units getting stuck, generally attempts to improve the AI, overhauls many of the skills that were mostly pointless in vanilla, and even changes what some of the core stats do. I usually actually don't like that, because mod creators have a habit of changing things too much in my opinion, sometimes even favoring their own playstyle instead of preserving the game's balance, or at least the game dev's vision of it. But the Paranoia mod gets my seal of approval, and with it, I enjoyed the game way more than before. We even started our own private contest match only PvP league, which is still going because people take forever to get together and play their matches. Happy I came back to this one. Link to the mod in the description. 6. Thea the Awakening. Now some of you might be thinking that I just play the same games over and over again, but let them know that for the first time in my young and promising life I have actually completed the game. Hell yeah. And I did it without crafter focus, and without stealth focus, and without running around my village every night in order to farm encounters like a cheese boy. So be impressed. And yeah, what a great game. Now that I beat it, I probably won't play it anymore. Probably. But I uploaded the entire playthrough, so link in the description. 5. Noita. Hands down one of the best games of the year. This is how you do dynamic physics in a fun way. This is how you do crafting. This is how you do exploration. And no, I don't mean 2D. I mean the game is full, like bursting with secrets. It is so filled to the brim that you cannot miss them. They are everywhere. And it is just great fun. Jump in, be amazed, don't get scared because you'll die a lot. 4. Dead in Vinland. Another game I finally completed. Who would have thought? Another game I said I would never come back to. Everywhere I go, I hear people say what a great year for gaming 2019 has been. Nah. It certainly had its dry episodes as far as my personal taste is concerned, but that gave me time to revisit some of those butt-clenching, nail-biting asshole games that just killed me after weeks of playing and sent me back to the start. I remember when I played Dead in Vinland last time I had played for many days and finally found an entrance in the north of the map down a staircase that led straight into a volcano. My best character, Carrie, started exploring downwards and stumbled and died, and it was game over. Yeah. I didn't start fresh back then, I just stopped, enraged by the game's cruelty, and thought I would never come back. When I eventually did, however, there were several new DLCs to explore. One is a doggy, and this time I knew not to send one of my core characters down that staircase. Then I won. The end. Honorable mentions. Before we reveal the top 3, let me put the spotlight on a few games that I played almost exclusively off-stream, and which I also won't stream, because there's no audience for them, or because I already spoiled myself, or for other reasons. Train Valley 2. If you ever wondered where all the kind gamers are, the nice and loving ones that just want to have fun and enjoy themselves without any toxicity, brutality, without the stress and the high difficulty, without the elitism and the gatekeeping and the cheating and the permadeath and the pain and the suffering, they are playing Train Valley 2. And they are making maps for it. And when one map gets played by another player, then they comment on how fun that map was and thank you for making it. And they write descriptions for those maps that are so adorable that you want to give them your firstborn because you know they will love it unconditionally. I'm rambling, but still, quick shout out, these guys are awesome, and the game is just wholesome and fun. Artifact. Speaking of toxicity, fuck all of you. Yes, you. Why didn't you buy more cards? I love this game. I still love this game. I am in it for the long haul, and I don't forget, and I don't forgive, and as long as players treat games like they treated Artifact, they do not deserve Half-Life 3. Enough said. The Witness. Now, I know at first this game looks like a glorified phone game. Not even a phone game, more like a digital coloring book, like a collection of mazes that you would find on the side of a cornflakes box. It is so much more. Sure, it looks at first as if you just go from puzzle to puzzle and all the surrounding area is just a nice looking lobby that lets you walk around. But let me just put it this way. Those puzzles are just the beginning. And before you know it, the game completely baffles you over and over again, just by coming up with more and more creative ways to not make it about the puzzle in front of you. One of the best games I played this year. Okay, that's all the honorable mentions I had. You ready for spot 3? I'm ready for spot 3. Here we go. 3. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. I wrote a long and extensive blog entry about this game, link in the description. The short version would be, this game is clearly better than all the other games From Software made before. Suck it, Dark Souls, and Dark Souls 2, and of course Dark Souls 3. In fact, you can all suck it together. It's not that the game is easier. I rage quit on stream anyway, during the fight against Ori of the Water, I believe. I got stuck there for 2 hours. But later, after I had already moved on to other games, I started playing it off stream again, and beat her in one attempt, and a stupid monk right afterwards in the second attempt, and then I played through the rest of this fantastic game. Especially later during the year, whenever we would check out another new release, and when many of them turned out to be broken, half-finished pieces of garbage, like Phoenix Point, I would think back to Sekiro on how it was so flawless in release, that it kind of hurt a little bit, you know? This is how you make a game, and a AAA game at that. 2. The Return of the Obra Dinn. I hereby swear that if the creator of this game makes 30 more games like it and asks for $60 for each, then I will buy every single one of them without any hesitation. The entire formula is so satisfying that I personally hope for lots of spin-offs, hell, even rip-offs. Just steal that, make more, let me play them, make a genre out of it. The Return of the Obra Dinn is basically like a big convoluted logic puzzle with a neat little story on top. You inspect a lot of basically snapshots of different situations, and while you move around and take it all in, those moments are frozen in time. They build a story, and while you can follow it without knowing anyone, it is your task to figure out who is who. What was their final fate? If they died, through what? If they didn't, where are they? If they were murdered, who was their killer? As you piece together those clues one by one, you start to realize connections, and what looks in the beginning like a series of unrelated situations starts to come together as you lock in names and causes of death. I played this on a whim, and now it's second place out of all the games I played this year. And what then is number 1? Anybody? I would love to see you all right now. I wonder how many would know. 1. Pathologic 2. It is not without reason that I immediately played through this game a second time after completing it once. Ice Pick Lodge Studios already had me as a fan after making The Void, but when I tried to get into the original Pathologic, I couldn't. The translation was horrendous, the graphics weren't much better, and the walking, well, let's not talk about the walking. Pathologic 2 is basically Pathologic. Same setting, same story, same names. Not much changed, I assume. And it has less content. The original Pathologic had 3 playable characters, 3 perspectives that led you on different journeys through the 12 final days of the town. In Pathologic 2 you only get to play Artemi Burak, the Haruspex as he's known in the original. Reviewers also didn't like Pathologic 2 too much. Clunky combat, overly harsh survival, and tedious survival at that, eating every few hours, being constantly thirsty, and don't get them started on the infection. So why the hell is it my number 1 pick then? And why are reviews on Steam overwhelmingly positive? Well, for starters, because it has some of the best writing I have ever seen. Some of the most engaging and intricate survival mechanics. Also, because game reviewers should maybe just find a new job. You think that guy playing Cuphead was bad? At least he understood what he was supposed to do, even though he didn't get how. Pathologic 2 is not a game you complete on the first playthrough. Heck, it took me like, I think 7 attempts, maybe more. You play, you die, you learn, and then you start from the very beginning, not from the last save. Of course, your last save is not going to help you anymore once you realize that on day 3 food prices triple, while you have already spent all your money on a barely useful gun that you bought from some stranger by the river, or when you realize only after somebody is dead that you could have possibly saved them 3 days earlier. On my 6th attempt, I randomly ran into a young boy who, as I already knew from earlier attempts, would get infected later that night. Until then I didn't even know that I could meet him at that time of that day, in that place. Or that he would invite me to come along to the place where he later would get infected. You see where I'm going? Without all the different attempts, you won't get to see half of the things the game wants to show you. Because you need to be in completely different places in order to witness things. The NPCs don't wait for you. They do their thing. And if you're not there, well, you're not there. So playing on lowest difficulty, not getting the point and then making a video about it is not a review. It is a reason to get disqualified, and a reason for viewers to stick with people like me. Because it is an absolute shame how a masterpiece like Pathologic 2 barely sold enough to not have the studio go bankrupt, while everybody and their mom is playing, I don't know, pick a game. For some reason I can never really keep the salt out of these videos. Well, I guess it helps to show how passionate I am about this. So let's take it as a good thing. Good. It's decided. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much for watching, not only this video, but all throughout the year, and I hope I'll see you again, and that 2020 will have lots of incredible surprises for us, and hopefully not too many disappointments. Commander Matt Gambler, signing off.